Unemployment in your area has surpassed 90%. You've long faced the looming threat of starvation. Fortunately, by some miracle, you are among the lucky few to land a steady job, such as it is. Which corporation hired you? Theosis Computing Solutions. The company appears to be related to technology in some way, though you don't know of any products they offer. Either they just offer technical support on other companies' products, or the goods they sell are merely kept highly confidential from peasants such as yourself. The office is of a very familiar design, all flickering fluorescent lights and endless rows of identical cubicles. Every room feels like a place you've been to 1,000 times before. Belial Robotics. Works for military and corporate contractors. All you know about their mysterious machines is that they were responsible for quite a few massacres in countries whose names you can't pronounce, and also for stealing away most every job in your town. Their headquarters have a vintage space age aesthetic, throughout which lingers a somber nostalgia, like you stepped into the final remnants of some bygone era that can never exist again. Krasnogorski Zavod. An intimidating building, reeking of Soviet-era brutalism. You can tell that the building has been repurposed many times over its long history, with parts of it ranging from what looks to be a former residential complex, to what was once a shopping mall, to a factory, to a power plant, etc. The interior is all concrete, tiles and chipped paint. Most of the place looks like it was straight up abandoned years ago. Quite wide open, which is a blessing and a curse. Regardless of the company you chose, the work is about the same. What exactly will you be doing here? Note that the more high-paying it is, the more danger you're putting yourself into. Yes, the salaries really are that low. They are not typos. Data entry. Salary, $3.50 an hour. The safest, most menial job in the world. You're given a big stack of paper documents, and by the end of the day you'll be expected to manually input all the data from these documents into varying spreadsheets and databases. Oftentimes this process could likely be automated, but it'd probably be a stupid idea to point that out. The biggest upside is that it's impossible to piss management off, as long as you get all your work done for the day. Customer service. Salary, $4 an hour. At least it's not as boring as data entry. You will be given a phone equipped with a translation device that will allow you to understand and respond to calls that seemingly all come from alternative versions of reality. They'll ask for help with products you've never heard of, and which are probably beyond your comprehension. Luckily, you just have to memorize your manual and follow it to a T. Note that you'll receive the occasional customer complaint. Technical support. Salary, $4.50 an hour. Very similar to customer service. However, you'll actually be given training briefings on how these strange products work. Though why anybody would purchase such bizarre devices will still be beyond you, and how to fix them. Sometimes being able to show off your expertise will be very satisfying. Other times it will be the pinnacle of frustration, as you're forced to deal with senile old loons for whom turn it off and back on again is an instruction far beyond their comprehension. Administrative assistant. Salary, $5 an hour. Your job will be to take care of certain mundanities in order to support your fellow co-workers, although working night shift you will never actually meet most of them. You'll be coordinating things around the office, planning out meetings, managing everyone's schedules, and generally making life easier. Be warned, this will give you some notion of the inner workings of the company, and knowing too much tends to draw a lot of unwanted attention to you. Accountant. Salary, $5.50 an hour. Wait, you don't remember ever taking the CPA exam? Why did you apply to this job? Actually, on second thought, you don't recall ever submitting any application to this company whatsoever. Probably best not to think about it. For some reason, just taking this job instantly grants you all the knowledge you'll need to manage the company's perilously complicated finances. Perfectionists are ideal, as mistakes are liable to piss off upper management. Janitor. Salary, $6 an hour. Watching a space go from disgusting to pristine carries its own sort of satisfaction. A pretty simple job, in concept, merely travelling about the workplace, cleaning up as much muck, grime, and occasionally gory viscera as you can. Why does it pay so much? Well, comparatively. Because it's particularly dangerous compared to the other jobs. You can't just turtle away in your office. You will have to continually venture around into uncharted territory. Security guard. Salary, $7 an hour. This job carries the same threats as janitor, but magnified. For the most part, it requires no labour except for walking around or sitting in your office and watching the cameras. However, management demands that you investigate all disturbances, meaning that instead of running away from danger, you're expected to strut right towards it. You'll also be expected to deal with the subjects, who sometimes try to escape the building. At least you'll be granted some extra gear. Office manager. Salary, $8 an hour. You're daring enough to act as a middle manager for the upper management, enacting their scattershot, nonsensical demands, and ensuring that the office runs exactly as they desire. The most dangerous job by far, but it may be your best shot at figuring out what's really going on here, and maybe even moving up in the company. Just know that appealing to your corporate overlords will involve sacrificing bits of your psyche, or even your humanity. The night shift can be a lonely job. Choose up to 3 fellow co-workers to keep you company. None of them seem to care much about the strangeness around your workplace, or at least they pretend not to. You will see them only occasionally. Kathy Walling. You get the feeling she grew up in abject poverty, and is now doing her best to fit into the corporate lifestyle, as if afraid it will slip through her fingers if she loosens her grip. Thus, she's probably the hardest worker in the office, always slaving away over her laptop, and encouraging others to work hard as well. She tries to inspire people with quotes from self-help books and motivational speeches, and will try to become something of a leader around the office. Sophie. Allegedly, this feline is actually a quite high-ranking member of the company, and has the ability to easily travel between dimensions, which would explain where she disappears to so often. She acts like she disdains humans, yet she always follows them around and tries to get their attention. She likes laying on your keyboard while you're trying to work. Touching her belly has a 50-50 chance of angering her, so belly rubs are a high-risk, high-reward endeavour. Maria Berkeley claims that she was hired in the year 1823, yet the moment she stepped into the building, it suddenly shifted to the modern day. She's had a few months to adjust to the new time period, but she still struggles, especially with technology and culture. Luckily, she didn't have anybody she'll miss. Her beliefs may be considered a bit backwards in these times, but she seems to be a nice enough woman all around. She's quite shy and demure around strangers. Russell J. Law enjoys pulling pranks on his co-workers and generally having fun and telling jokes around the office. Whether or not you'll find him funny or grating depends on your tolerance for slightly immature humour. If somebody finds his personality abrasive, he tends to just avoid them. He's a fan of sitcoms and fantasy football, and can engage on those subjects for hours. He seems to find the eldritch horrors lurking in the office to be profoundly hilarious. Ted, the security guy. A balding middle-aged security guard who has a small but unspecified amount of days left until retirement. He can only be seen in mirrors, and seems to exist in a parallel universe version of your workplace, one where everything is safe, normal and mundane. He'll be freaked out by your presence at first, believing you to be a ghost, but will eventually warm up to you, finding chatting with you to be an interesting reprieve from his boring job. Has a dad-esque sense of humour. Lucia Mora Martins. A go-getter who'll be the office manager if that's not your position. Otherwise he'll be in an administrative position. He always likes to inspire his co-workers to strive for greatness. For some reason, anything he tells anybody to do, they'll do right away, as if his words have some profound hypnotic influence. He doesn't seem to have noticed he has such a power, however, and he never will unless you point it out to him. What he'll do with it if he found out is impossible to predict. William Goldberg. A man with a long and storied history, having been all across America and the world. He's even a war veteran. You'd never guess it just from looking at him, though. He has quite the goofy persona, even if his sense of humour is very old-fashioned and outdated. You get the feeling that this job is just giving him something to occupy his time with in his twilight years. If you befriend him, he'll often ask you to help him with even the most basic of technology. Elijah Gray. A moderately aloof man who tends to be silently amused by all the foolishness around the office, but mostly keeps to himself. He gives great advice, but occasionally delves into political rants about the oppression of the workforce. He seems to be the one most aware that something is terribly wrong with this company, but he can't say a word about it. All he can do is speak in code and give you subtle hints. You get the impression he has some big plans in the works. Jim Wakefield. He's an author in his off hours, and if you befriend him, he'll occasionally offer you free signed copies of his books. They're pretty decent, and very wily in genre. He's a relaxed, straightforward and bookish man, usually buried in his accountant work. You can tell him about the horrors you experience around the office, but no matter what you say, he'll assume that you're just pitching a premise for a horror novel, and give you frank feedback on your idea. Donna Kaiser. Everybody else is so chipper. She's the only one that appears to be in the same boat as yourself, miserable in these soul-sucking conditions, and terrified of things she dares not speak of directly. This makes her less of a positive influence than the other co-workers, but at least she is the one you'll be able to relate to the most. Struggling to make ends meet and see any hope for the future, she's lost all passion for the job, but savours what little human contact she can get. Miguel. He is extremely excited to have this job. Doesn't speak English very well at all, but can relate to you on general topics like sports and women. Seems to quite love his family, and is always excitedly showing you pictures of them. Can be coaxed into a laughing fit by even the most basic of jokes, or even things that weren't actually meant to be comedic. Seems to see you as a superior, even if you have the same job as him. He is always almost overly friendly. The DJ. Broadcasts over the intercoms from some indiscernible area of the building. He tends to try and imitate various typical DJ personalities, talking smooth and suave one night, and then energetic and bombastic the other. He reports on news around the office and interviews employees, some of which don't seem to be human. His sense of humour starts out pretty obnoxious, but gradually improves. When he isn't talking, he's usually playing quite soothing music. You aren't allowed to bring anything to work besides your uniform, but the workplace does offer some perks. Choose 10. Toy. Free. By default, this will be your only source of entertainment around the workplace. Yes, it is one of those B-toys you played with in hospital waiting rooms when you were a child. Your boss boasted about it like it was a big deal. It's okay, you suppose. Basic office. Free. You'll be given one cubicle in an otherwise large, lonely room. It's got a decent setup, but it always creeps you out. You feel so exposed out here, like something could come sprinting at you from any angle. It suits its purpose, though. Upgraded office. You'll be given your own office in what looks like it was once a small storage closet. There's no ventilation aside from a fan, and it's kind of musty in here, but at least it seems to be a lot safer. Try to ignore the sounds of shuffling outside, or scratching on the door. Upgraded Office 2. Requires upgraded office. Combines privacy and comfort into one actually decent office. Is moderately large, has air conditioning, and even has a couch. Still no windows, though. Secure it well. The extra size means unsavory things have more places to hide. Break room. For 15 minutes a shift, you'll have access to the break room. It's incredibly Spartan, but completely safe, and has an atmosphere of comfort. You'll be able to hang out with your co-workers here. Take this option twice for a 30-minute break, thrice an hour-long break. Lunch break. Requires break room. Upon entering the break room, you'll find a freshly made meal waiting for you. It's about what you'd expect from a struggling inner-city elementary school, or perhaps a Bulgarian prison. The meal changes daily, and some foods you don't recognise. Upgraded lunch. Requires lunch break. The lunch your workplace provides has been upgraded from something that you'd reasonably expect to find at a restaurant. The food served changes daily, but it seems designed to fit your tastes, more or less. Pretty good. Games. Requires break room. Your break room will now have a few games to enjoy with your co-workers. Includes a foosball table, a dartboard, ping pong, a few board games and jigsaw puzzles, and even a few old arcade cabinets that work at least a quarter of the time. Upgraded games. Requires games. Your break room is now equipped with a projector, connected to a dusty old Wii that was probably dug up from somebody's attic. Comes with Wii Sports Resort by default. You can choose a new game to be added every month. Television. Requires break room. Most of its channels are static, but if you fiddle with it, you can find most basic broadcasting out there. Keep up to date on the news or just relax with some sports or reality shows. Sometimes you just want to kick back and watch TV. Upgraded television. Requires television. Your television now, somehow, has access to most of the major streaming services, including Netflix. The remote is very unnecessarily complex, but you'll eventually manage to navigate to whatever show you've been wanting to watch. Vending machines. Search out of your way and you'll find odd coins that can be redeemed at vending machines, scattered through the building. Most offer tasty, filling snacks and beverages, alongside seemingly random other objects. Sometimes said objects can include extra survival gear. Courtyard. Being stuck in dull rooms with no windows all the time is draining to the soul. With this, the building now has a beautiful courtyard you often pass through while travelling, and can also visit during your breaks. It seems to be as safe as the break room, and just as relaxing. LED flashlight. Has a very narrow beam that is very bright, but won't light up a room much. Its battery lasts about an hour, and will be replenished each night. It is light and extremely reliable, and can't be turned off by anybody or anything but yourself. Can be attached to the pistol. Phone privileges. You'll be allowed to bring your regular phone into the office, if you own one. The Wi-Fi in the building is very spotty and slow, but you can browse it if you're patient. You can also text, play games, watch videos, or what have you. Slacking off too much has consequences, though. Daily book. A new book can soothe the soul. Every day you'll find a new book on your desk that will replace the one from the previous day. You can't choose which book, but they'll usually generally fit your interests. Time slows while you're actively reading them, giving a de facto break. Upgraded book. Requires daily book. In addition to the book you're already given, you'll be given a daily horror story written upon very old-seeming parchment. Each horror story is actually a hint as to what kinds of dangers you may face that day, though it can be hard to interpret. Motion detector. Can be set up around the building anywhere there's an outlet nearby. When something moves within a close vicinity, it will let out a loud beeping noise that only you can hear. Good for making sure you can't be snuck up on. Can be taken multiple times for multiple detectors. Radio. Can't be moved from your desk. Fiddle with the dial long enough and you can get it to play just about any music you can imagine. Really helps with the monotony of work. It turns to static if any entities are nearby. Sometimes you'll hear whispers giving you advice. Windows. You'll usually spend all your time deep in the core of the building, always far from any windows. With this, though, you'll be spending much more time by them. You even have some in the break room or the upgraded office too. Does absolute wonders for morale. VPN. Ordinarily, the Wi-Fi is incredibly and arbitrarily restrictive on what websites you're allowed to browse. This deactivates all such filters on your computer and phone. It also speeds up the internet somewhat. you may be able to find some very useful information deep on the web. Pistol. Free of security guard. A Glock you found hidden away beneath a floorboard under your desk. It is loaded with a 12-round magazine that is refilled every week. Don't expect to kill most things with this, but it may drive something off. Doesn't seem to hurt your ears. Security console. Free of security guard. Your office is equipped with screens showing the feeds of cameras placed all around the building. If one spots an entity, it will be filled with static. The building's layout shifts every day, so it's a struggle trying to discern which camera is where. Strange coin. Free if office manager. Replenishes daily. Can be slid into a slot accompanied by a note to obtain one of the other items or benefits from this list, as long as you have the prereq. Each selection only lasts for that day. This item costs twice as much as the other options. Resignation. What is this crazy fucking place? Why the hell did you take this job? This is insane. You need to get out of here. You need to...
A word from management. This option is undergoing routine maintenance and cannot be selected at this time.
As the days go by, you begin to notice strange entities and other dangers lurking your workplace. Choose at least 3. The ones you are required to take do not count. For every extra one you take, gain 1 co-worker and 4 perks, or $1 an hour. The sprawl. Required. Your workplace is far more massive on the inside than it looks from the outside, and its layout seems to change on a daily basis. Places like your office and the break room will only be moderately deep, but as far as you can tell, there's no limit to how deep the sprawl goes. As you venture deeper into the labyrinthian structure, the layout will become more confusing and non-Euclidean, with stairs leading up into the room you just came from, or doors tucked away deep in the heart of the building opening up to the outside. As time goes on, you'll learn the patterns of how to navigate the bizarre structure, but never become overconfident. If you wander carelessly, you're liable to get yourself lost in the deepest reaches, with little hope of finding your way back out, especially as strange creatures seem to haunt these darker corners. The staff. Required if working at Theosis Computing Solutions. Are these the employees who work the day shift? Or maybe they're the victims of some kind of punishment by the upper management? Completely faceless and donning identical uniforms, these ominous figures are always locked in one rigid pose, and either float in place in random areas of the office, or slowly drift around, at least until one of them is activated. This is triggered by phrases or actions that vary wildly between staff, so it's near impossible to avoid completely. When this happens, the activated staff member will begin to drift towards you, also activating all staff within its presence. The halls will be filled with their indecipherable whispers as they pursue you, very slowly, but with the strength to smash through doors and bones like they were twigs. You don't want to let them get their hands on you. The prototypes. Required if working at Belial Robotics. Automation has already effectively driven 90% of career paths to extinction, and these experimental machines promise to increase their number to 100%. As their ads boast, why bother replacing your employees when you can augment them? With this option, a complex network of machinery exists within the very walls and ceilings of the building, able to poke out through secret doors and ceiling tiles to snatch and improve employees whose performance is lacking. Even if you work as hard as you can, occasional malfunctions will cause the machines to briefly try and augment you anyway. If you're not capable of evading them, you will spend the next few centuries as an unfeeling, unthinking automaton, serving the interests of your corporate overlords for 24 hours a day, without the need for breaks or payment. The Founder. Required if working at Krasnogorsky Zavrod. A truly ancient entity, one that was once a man but has since had every semblance of humanity stripped from him, leaving him this grotesque creature, a shambling reminder of what happens to those who dare earn the ire of the upper management. Shunned from the light, he lingers in the building's dark, labyrinthian basement, although he seems to have become more active once you joined the corporation. He emerges from the basement some nights to pursue you. He prefers ambush tactics, but is perfectly proficient in a chase. His dull senses, however, make it easy to hide from him, if you can escape his gaze. Particularly powerful and concentrated lights appear to pain him. If he captures you, he'll drag you down into his decrepit basement, and subject you to the same punishment that was inflicted upon himself. The elevator. All of the doors to the stairwells have been chained shut, meaning you'll have to take the elevator. It's usually fine, if slow and rickety, but every so often it opens up to an alternative version of your workspace, retrieved from somewhere out there in the multiverse. Upon opening to these dimensions, the elevator will shut down, requiring you to venture out and find a glowing green switch somewhere in the building to reactivate it. These dimensions will be surreal places, from walls and floors merely being the flesh of some living organism, with the various departments being cyclopean organs, to an endlessly vast warehouse of pitch darkness that only your LED flashlight can pierce through. It's never the same dimension twice. Perhaps the most dangerous are the dimensions with changes so subtle, you may not realize you entered them until it's already too late. The children. You vaguely heard that Bring Your Child to Work Day at this building went horribly wrong a few years ago, resulting in a total massacre, but you can't find any of the details. All you know is, the children seem to still haunt the halls of your workplace. You can hear their laughter and see their shadows running around the halls. Sometimes you even spot their butchered, grotesque forms in mirrors or in the corner of your eyes, only for them to vanish as soon as you notice them. They leave macabre writings on the walls or strange dolls hanging from nooses, and enjoy typical poltergeist mischief, even shoving you while you're walking down the stairs or carrying knives. Flies swarm your office, blood pours from the water fountains, and lights suddenly shut off at random times. This all affects your psyche, but they also like luring in the other entities, and sabotaging your plans. The mannequins. This isn't a clothing company, but for some reason the office is filled with mannequins of drastically varying shapes and sizes. Management tells you to never touch them, but it's hard to draw your attention away. You feel like they're moving around whenever you're not looking, or staring at you when your back is turned. They'll fill your nightmares even at home, and you'll be plagued with the idea that they're planning something. Of course, you don't actually have any evidence that they're active, and close inspection will reveal they never actually moved an inch, but you can never shake the suspicion. As your grip on reality weakens, you can swear that you hear them whispering, and you see them when you close your eyes. Worryingly, you've heard previous workers have ended up in asylums, spending the rest of their lives rambling and screaming about those mannequins. The jumper. On occasion, you will suddenly feel a force compelling you to rush up to the rooftop. Incidentally, this will be the only time the roof is accessible. There you will spot a blood-soaked cloaked figure standing on the ledge. For some reason you will feel an immense caring towards it, like you would one of your own family members. No matter what you say or do, the figure will throw itself off the rooftop to its death. Night after night. Each incident will be as devastating to you as the last, and while the figure will never directly harm you, these events will wear on your psyche. More and more, creeping thoughts will fill your head. Unless you take care of yourself, you'll slowly be drained of all emotion, all energy, all sense that there's any point of persisting in this doomed world. Lose all hope, and one night, the figure will finally allow you to stand by its side, and you shall jump together, hand in hand. The Shadow. He himself can't be seen, outside of his shadow, and he doesn't make even the faintest of sounds either. However, you can feel him. Feel his warm breath against the back of your neck, and feel his fingers gently gliding through your hair, or his hands resting on your hips. You even find the shrines he's made of you, littered around the office in secret, hidden away little places, adorned with photographs of you taken when you were unaware you were being watched. His love for you is deep and piercing, and it will be hard to ever feel like you aren't being watched or followed. You'll find love notes, gifts, and other attempts at winning your affections, and he'll even have your co-workers mention him to you. Denying his love will only make him desire you even more. Unlike the other entities, he doesn't want to hurt you. He just wants to make you all his. By force, if necessary. The consumers. You are aware that this company, for some reason, has large and incredibly devoted fan communities all over the internet, but you didn't realize just how devoted they were until you met them. During regularly scheduled events, a mass group of fans will appear in hooded cloaks to take a tour of the office. As an employee, they will treat you as divinity, but only if you play along, joining in their strange and elaborate dances and rituals, which go on for hours and hours, and performing the occasional sacrifice in honor of the upper management. Clear your mind and convince yourself you genuinely love this company. If you keep having negative thoughts about the organization, they'll be able to sense it, and they won't be happy. If they realize you're not a real lover of the corporation, they'll turn on you with their bronze knives, and you'll likely find yourself their newest sacrifice. The subjects. Required if security guard. Every so often, strange figures will appear in the building, covered in burns, scars, bandages, and what looks to be the results of gruesome experiments. They will be desperately trying to escape the building, muttering about how they can't go back. Management demands you not let them leave. They are vulnerable to conventional damage, although it's demanded that you bring them in alive. Many of them seem to have strange mutations that make them more threatening, from scaly, durable skin, to acid vomit, to the ability to crawl along walls and ceilings. They're very disoriented, though, and are more interested in fleeing than attacking. Once you've captured one, you must bring them to a locked metal door beneath the building, where men in white lab coats and gas masks will emerge to retrieve them. The upper management. Required if office manager. To them, you are no different from a single trifling ant in a grand complex colony. Your life is utterly replaceable. After all, there are thousands of people who would eagerly line up to replace you. They see everything. They hear everything. They know everything. And for one reason or another, their many eyes have rested upon you. You will be subject to bizarre and arbitrary rules and demands that will change on a daily basis, and which you will have to follow even outside of work. They'll also occasionally subject you to unpredictable and dangerous trials and challenges in an attempt to assess your worth. Slacking off in the slightest isn't an option when the upper management is so focused on you. You'll have to work your ass off to avoid their ire, and even then, it may not be enough. This option counts as 2 threats. You tremble as you stand before the front door, knowing that the moment you step inside, there's no going back. Good luck on your very first shift. Gain 1 free choice. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, and leave a comment in the description with your build. Gain another free choice if you're subscribed to me on Patreon. Gain another free choice if you write an HFY story using this as a writing prompt. This is still better than my old job.